Hey, everybody, it's Ron Johnson, and this is the Ron Johnson Show on Locked On Sports Minnesota, the Locked On Podcast Network, and the Lions and the Vikings. I'm from Detroit, so I've been waiting for this game for a while because I got friends on the Lions. I got coaches, Antoine Randall, and there's some about this Lions team. Like, everybody assumes they're unbeatable. Everybody assumes that they're just this dominant force. But there's a few things that the Vikings can take advantage of, and we'll talk about that next. Also, the Timberwolves setting history. We'll talk about all that next on the Ron Johnson Show.
Locked On Sports Minnesota Podcasts. It's endless Minnesota Vikings talk with the diverse voices of your local experts. Now the Ron Johnson Show. On the field, in the broadcast booth, Ron Johnson is Minnesota sports. He's played with them, hung out with them, and grown up with all the big names in Minnesota sports. They're hanging out with Ron Johnson. It's the Ron Johnson Show on the Locked On Sports Minnesota podcast. And it starts now.
Hey, everybody, it's Ron Johnson, and this is the Ron Johnson Show on Locked On Sports Minnesota. I want everybody to know today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers can get $150. That's $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. Trust me, it's a lot of easy games out there to figure out. Just find the best one with the money line. Bet $5 on it, people. You get the bonus $150 is unlocked. That's $150 if your team wins or whatever team you bet on. I bet on the Nuggets to beat the Lakers when I hit mine. Doesn't matter who you bet on. Just bet on somebody that you think can win. Easy $5 bet. You win $150. Just visit FanDuel.com/locked on to get started. Well, in today's show, we're going to talk about the Vikings Lions. It's a Christmas Eve game. So can the Vikings keep the fans excited to go home and do whatever they do on Christmas Eve? It's going to be an early noon game, thank goodness. So you get your full Sunday to just relax, hang out at home, have a few drinks, maybe watch some Monday night or some Sunday night football, hang out with the family by the fire, and then open some gifts the next morning. Or the Vikings going to send the Vikings fans home, sad, upset about the team, worried about their position in the playoffs, and then wake up Christmas morning and dads aren't going to be as happy as they would be. Kids and parents and moms probably won't care, but some of these dads might lose their mind. Also, think about the players having to open up gifts the next day after losing to the Lions. So can the Vikings save Christmas? We'll talk about that, but also the Timberwolves, perfect 3-0 this week so far, people. They are on a roll, 20-5. We'll talk about that. And then also in the Daily 3, some Jake Browning drama, former Vikings, like, I don't even know what you call him, free agent, backup to the backup to the backup. He had some things to say. Cole Kramer making a decent amount of money to play in the bowl game because he was going to retire after the season anyway. He didn't plan on going to the bowl game. He thought Ethan Callick-Mans would be the quarterback. And then we're going to talk about NFL MVP. As I bring my producer into the show, Sam Ekstrom, this Vikings-Lions game. We'll start there. When you think about this Vikings-Lions game, Sam, the Vikings right now are tied with a lot of teams at 7-7. And I think that's the problem now is this NFL is kind of log jammed. And I don't know if anybody saw, but the Seahawks, Eagles. Everybody assumed, I don't know, Sam, if you assumed it too, that the Eagles were just going to not run away with it, but win this game.
Yes.
Everybody thought the Eagles would win this game. They were hyping up Jalen Hurts having the flu. The fact that this was about to be his Michael Jordan flu game. He wore Michael Jordan gear. I don't know if you saw that to the stadium. I don't know if he purposely was doing that to troll the people or if he just, that's just what he wore. But everybody was trying to make it out to be, he's slated for Jordan flu game. Go to the NFC, Sam. You got the Cowboys at 10-4. You got the Eagles at 10-4 now because they lost. So the Cowboys now have taken over the number 2 seed because they also beat the Eagles. The Eagles are on a 3-game skid. Can they get out of this? You look at the Lions at 10-4 as well. They're right there with them. So they have a chance to actually be the 2 seed. You got the Bucks, the Saints at 7-7 with the 49ers running away with it right now at 11-3. You got the Rams at 7-7 and the Seahawks at 7-7. Also to mention, as I didn't say, the Vikings are 7-7. So you got the Bucks, the Saints, the Vikings, the Rams, and the Seahawks all at 7-7, Sam. Every game, I think it always matters. but every game matters. And this is a must-win game for the Vikings. Sam, but if the Vikings lose to the Lions and go 7-8, where do you think that where do you think that knocks them down to the 8th seed at this point?
Yeah, I think it does. I think you can't give up, though, if you lose to Detroit, because 2 out of 3 probably gets the job done. Because right now the Vikings are the 6th, so 2 teams would have to jump them.
Correct.
That means that 2 out of the Rams, Seahawks, and Saints would have to run the table if the Vikings just go 2-3. So if you lose to Detroit, you're still in that thing. You can still beat the Packers, and then Ron, the Detroit might not have a lot to play for in Week 18. That might be a game that's very winnable, even though it's on the road. So I think you just got to get to 9 wins. Get to 9 wins. It seems more daunting if you lose this Saturday, but it's not over. And do we really think the Rams and the Seahawks and the Saints are going to run the table? No, there's too much parity in this league. Wacky stuff happens every week. So win 2 out of 3, and I think that gets the job done.
Because you look at the Vikings right now, like we said, 7-7. The Packers, thank goodness, lost to the Buccaneers. But the Buccaneers, like, people were thinking, like, oh, does it matter? It does. The Buccaneers now, by winning that game, jump to number 1 in the NFC South. So they are now putting themselves in the playoffs as the 4th seed. So that's the reason for all this parity within the NFC. It's kind of a logjam down at the bottom at that 5, 6, 7, 8, or 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It's logjam, and so everybody's trying to jockey for position. But you're right. If the Vikings can go 2-3, and that's why, Sam, that's why every game it's so sad right now that all these 1-score games. You beat the Bengals, you're not having this conversation right now. You beat the Bengals, you're 8-6, you're probably good. Even if you were to lose to the Lions twice, it looks like 9 wins, they would have been good because because of how other teams are playing. 9 wins would have got them there, because even if at this point they had 9 wins going into that last game, the other teams, even if they win and the Vikings lose, if they were 9-7 heading into that last Lions game, it probably doesn't matter. And the Lions probably realize it too. Like, look, we're playing the Vikings anyway next week. Let's just rest our guys. The Vikings are probably thinking the same thing. Hey, we play the Lions anyway. We can't drop to 7. We're going to be 6. Let's just rest our guys. Now they have to go for it all. Looks like Jordan Hicks his window was just opened up. His 21-day return window was just opened up. So that would give him any time within this next 3 weeks. My guess is probably the Packers or the last Lions game, maybe just thinking like, hey, let's just get them ready so we can come back for the playoffs, because that's what Justin Jefferson did. He took the full 21 days and then he came back after the bye. So maybe Jordan Hicks is looking at that. Like, look, we are a playoff team. Let's open up his window now so that he can come back for the playoffs, let his leg completely heal. Ivan Pace Jr. has been playing great. But Sam, when you look at the 49ers, the Lions, the Bucks are at the top, and then the Cowboys. Now you have the Eagles in the second place team, clearly one of the better teams in that grouping. And then you kind of put the Saints, Vikings, and the Rams together as all are the second seed within their division. If you're the Vikings, if you're the Lions, if you're the 3 seed, who would you rather play? Would you rather play the Saints, the Rams, or the Vikings? Or who don't you want to play? Like, would that game matter enough to the Lions to win, to say, if we win this, we don't have to play the Vikings again? Who do you think they're most scared of?
I look at all these teams, and you got the Vikings with a backup quarterback. You got the Saints, who have been so up and down. Carr has gotten hurt several times this year. The Seahawks have a backup quarterback now. I almost think the Rams, who no one thought were going to be anything this year, with Kupp and Puka and Stafford, they're almost kind of a scary team. I like the Rams' trajectory right now. That might be kind of a tough out in the playoffs. But again, that Vikings defense, I think, makes them a tough draw, especially if it's the Lions probably don't want to mess around, Ron, playing the Vikings 3 times in 4 games.
Yep.
I think that's a dangerous recipe. So I would avoid the Vikings at all costs if I were Detroit. Then after that, I wouldn't want to play the Rams. I'd probably prefer the Seahawks or the Saints coming in.
Yeah, I'm going to say, because you got the Seahawks at 8, you got the Saints at 9, you got the Rams who are now in the playoffs at 7, the Vikings at 6. This is one thing, too, before we jump over to the Timberwolves topic, Sam, and we're going to have a word from our sponsors. But and this is just me, maybe I'm overthinking this. Did it feel like to you that Zach Taylor and the Bengals kind of figured out Brian Flores a little bit. Like, I didn't feel like Jake Browning was under duress. Like, as much as they say he goes after these rookie quarterbacks and he's going to make his life a living heck and he's going to put them in a – I was hearing on Peacock with Mike Florio and then the Dan Patrick, they're going to put Jake Browning, and we know Florio's a Vikings fan, but they're going to put Jake Browning on in the blender. And you know, so I'm listening to fantasy football talk on Peacock, and I'm getting excited. Like, oh, man, like I didn't even think about all that. Like, I forgot he's a young quarterback still. It didn't happen. He didn't look like he was in the blender. Like, he did make some mistakes. But he looked pretty good. Like, he looked like he was okay. And so I never felt like, I mean, we did have the intentional grounding. We had some weird moments for him, but it never felt like it was nonstop chaos that we've seen in other games for some quarterbacks. Like, do you think that the Bengals put some on film for Flores' defense that now the Lions and even the Packers can say, oh, why didn't we think of that? Like, did you notice that a little bit?
So on one hand, Bengals didn't score a touchdown until the fourth quarter.
Correct.
On the other hand, once they got going, they did not stop. Touchdown, touchdown, touchdown. And then the field goal drive in overtime. On one hand, that's concerning. There were some third downs that got converted that should never get converted, like a 3rd and 21.
Mm-hmm.
But there were also some crazy throws that should not be completed. I mean, the touchdown to Higgins needs to be broken up. They had him dead to rights on 4th and goal at the 1, and Ivan Pace couldn't wrap up Joe Mixon. Yep. So if the Vikings had just made a couple more plays, we wouldn't be having this conversation. But everything that the Bengals needed to happen did happen. They made all the catches. They got all the breaks in the fourth quarter. So I guess I won't hit the panic button yet about the defense. But, Ron, I will say that now we've seen 3 out of 4 games the opponent drive late to win against this defense. So what is that? Is that a fluke? Or is there something that's vulnerable about this group when it's all on the line? That's beginning to be an alarming trend.
Yeah, I don't know. But, you know, it also is a weird trend that I didn't notice. Their home versus their road record. Like, a lot of people say at home, you should be great. The Vikings aren't. They're 2-4 at home. On the road, they're 5-3. So almost, if I'm a Vikings fan, I'm like, you know what? Let's go on the road for this playoff game. Like, our teams play better on the road. Even though, like, you look at the Bengals game, that should be a W. They should be 6-2 on the road and 2-4 at home, which again is absolutely weird. Weirdest number stats when you think about that. But yeah, they like, I don't know. Like, I don't even know the answer because I look at everybody else's road versus home record. Nobody else has like a better home. Like, I'm looking at nobody has a better road record than they do home other than the Vikings. Like, literally, they're the only team. Oh, the Commanders.
Baltimore by one game. Baltimore by 1 game.
They do. Oh, and the Commanders, which is weird anyway. They're 1-5 at home and 3-5 on the road. I mean, they still lost 5 games, whether they're home or away. But they did get 2 additional wins on the road. But the Vikings, like, their difference is like glaring. Because Chiefs, everybody else, nobody else has it there. And then the Ravens. Yep, you're right. 6-1 versus 5-2, but that's still just legit team overall. So I wouldn't count that as that because that's not more so an anomaly and just more so like we've played more. Well, no, they played 7-7. They've got 1 additional win on the road than they do at home. So that's the only other one. But again, when you're 11-3, you can't really make a case for that. When you're 7-7, like the Vikings, you have to look at that and be like, what's going on? Because like the Steelers at 7-7, they're kind of dead even. They're 4-4 at home and 3-3 on the road. So you don't know what you're going to get out of them. That's why I think everybody's kind of right now talking about Mike Tomlin. And that's what's so crazy. I don't know if you've heard this recent talk. This is recent today, Sam. Mike Tomlin, they question if he's on the hot seat at 7-7. So that's what's so weird is like, and they're like not on the hot seat to the point where it's like we should fire him, but more so like we should have a conversation with him. He's been here for a long time. He's made a lot of money. Is it time for him to like on his own step aside, or can we offer him another position within the organization as like a, whatever, analyst or a front office, like kind of like Bruce Arians did with the Bucks. Like he's around, he has an office, but he doesn't have to come in every day. He can go spend more time with his family and his kids. He's made a ton of money as a head coach. Or can he get something out of these quarterbacks the last 3 games? I mean, that's where And that's what Mike Tomlin tends to do. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if Mike Tomlin goes 10-7, and then all of a sudden we're looking up and he's, possibly one step out of the wild card. And if he goes 9-8, again, he's never had a losing season. That's the other thing that's tough for Steelers, is like he's never had a losing season. Every single year he's found a way to get to that 9, that 10 games. But now 7-7, they're asking, is he on the hot seat? But look at his quarterback situation. It's horrible.
Yeah.
It's horrible. His quarterbacks are horrible. So you can say that, but then vice versa, the 7-7 Rams are getting praised. The 7-7 Vikings, it's like, oh, it's a whatever. Quarterback Kirk Cousins is out. So, so there's so much parity within the NFL when you look at a team that's always been good, that all of a sudden is mediocre and people are questioning, versus the Vikings team that's been up and down and they're just happy. And then a Rams team that just won a Super Bowl, they were writing the season off and now they're back in the playoff. And so it's just, it's weird how they take this. All are 7-7. So why aren't all of them on the hot seat? Why isn't everybody on the hot seat at 7-7? It's just Mike Tomlin. Because even for the Titans, like Mike Vrabel, I haven't heard much about him. D'Amico Ryans, I mean, that's the quiet story with the Texans. At 8-6 can still win the division. CJ Stroud can still win their division. So it's very interesting how quarterback driven this league can be when Kirk Cousins is out. If Kirk Cousins is in, I'm pretty sure the Vikings finished this season, they would have been 10-7. Like, I don't see them being less than 10-7. I think that 11 wins that I had predicted to start the year, I think it would have happened with Kirk Cousins. Looking at the way this defense has figured it out now, because Sam, when you look at the Vikings defense now, they're 13th in yards allowed, but they're 5th in the run. That's the thing. When you're 5th in the run, you're forcing teams to have to pass. So that's why that 224 passing yards they've given up, to me, is only because of the run. Just to pay off the T, Sam, my thoughts on trying to beat the Lions, and this is what you do. You have to establish the run. If you can establish the run, you limit that beast of a rush with Aiden Hutchinson and the way they blitz. If you can, because you saw this with the Packers. When the Packers beat the Lions, they ran the ball. They punched them in the mouth. The defense hit them. But it starts with running the ball. We saw what Ty Chandler can do. And who knows, Alexander Madison is ready to come back. But last one, Sam, do you think Ty Chandler deserves to be the starting running back when you think about like the way he ran the ball last week against the Bengals? Looking at the Lions defense as far as takeaways, they've had 15 takeaways, 9 interceptions, 6 forced fumbles. So you have to win the turnover battle. Running the ball probably guarantees you don't have to throw the ball as much, even though your quarterback can throw for 300 yards. Do you think that Ty Chandler should be the starting running back for the rest of the season?
I do. Yeah, I do. I'm glad you asked, because I was going to ask you the same question. I've been on Team Chandler for a while. I think that Chandler is explosive, and I like Alexander Madison. But if Alexander Madison just has to be your third down back, if you need him to pass protect, that's fine. But I like Chandler getting the bulk of the touches. I don't think that means you exclude Madison from the game plan.
Correct.
But I would like to see Chandler get the lion's share of the carries. I think he's got more big play potential.
Yeah, and you saw the big play potential. He broke 2 of them, 2 nice long runs. Alexander Madison always did well as the number 2 back behind Dalvin Cook. He would come in, he would do well, and that's the reason why the Vikings paid him. That's the reason why they thought he could be the feature back. It just hasn't panned out. And you can't blame the offensive line, because this offensive line in this game was without Brian O'Neill, and they still were able to run the ball well. Like, Ty Chandler ran the ball well. The Bengals defense, you can't say the Bengals defensive line was just terrible. Like, the Bengals defensive line, as far as runs allowed, now they were giving up 127 yards per game on the ground, so you could put a little bit on that. Like, was it the Bengals line potentially? But they face some other teams, like the Raiders gave up 127 yards on the ground. They were worse than the Bengals, and I don't think we ran the ball against the Raiders the way we thought they should have. Like it was 0-0 through 3 quarters. So you can't really say it's the defense, because the Raiders defense was ranked 25th. The Bengals defense was ranked 24th. And what was the difference? The difference was Ty Chandler. I hate to say it. I think you're dead on, though. Alexander Madison is a better back as far as picking up the blitz. So maybe he is your third down back. You give him some throws out the backfield. You allow him to run on third down if you're going to run the ball. You allow him to be the blitz pickup guy. But Ty Chandler just seems to be a little bit quicker, a little bit twitchier, a little bit better opportunity. But we've got a little long on the first segment, Sam. We got to jump over into this Timberwolves talk, but we'll do that after a word from our sponsors.
And we are brought to you today by FanDuel. Yep, it is almost Christmas. The weather outside is frightful, but the deals are hot at FanDuel, including betting 5 on the money line, winning that bet, getting $150 in bonus bets. Yep, for new customers, that's all it takes. Just a $5 wager on any money line to get $150 in bonus bets when your team wins. So, do you think the Vikes are going to take down the Lions at home? You might get a nice price on that money line. You could win that and then $150. If you wanted to join FanDuel, now is a great time before the NFL season ends. You can also carry your success over into the NBA season. Hey, that Wolves money line has been paying off 20 out of 25 times this year. Very easy to use at FanDuel. You can look at the wide range of betting options like the spreads, the player props, the over-unders, and plenty more. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and bet the NFL. FanDuel, an official partner of the National Football League.
Well, Sam, the Timberwolves, they are a nice Christmas gift for Minnesota fans. Let's be real. The Vikings aren't doing as well as we think they should. Still can make the playoffs, but probably not going to do much, make much noise in the playoffs. Let's be real. The Wild, not doing well. Go for football, didn't do well. Go for basketball, not doing well. But we have the Timberwolves. We have a team, Sam, and maybe that's God's plan. Like, you can't give everybody an embarrassment of riches. Like, you can't have it all. You can't have the best football team, the best basketball team, the best hockey team, the best baseball team, because the baseball team did make the playoffs. But maybe that was God's plan. And they had to sacrifice the Wild maybe this year. They had to sacrifice the Wild in the scheme of sports. The sports God said, we can't give you all of it. You're gonna have to sacrifice. We'll take the Wild from you for a little bit. We'll give you the Timberwolves at 20-5 now. Has set their franchise record for wins, most wins in the first 25 games with 20. You saw the game, and so for me, when I first looked at the game, the Timberwolves were down, I think by 11 or 12 at the half. I think it was 12. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, you know what? Let me finish the gift wrapping. I had to get my daughter. She loves wrapping gifts. So I'm getting gifts. And then I check back and I see Twitter saying, like, this is the Wolves team we know. And I'm like, wait, what? I'm like, what's going on? So I check it out. They slowly wore down the Heat. They slowly just grinded it out, making the clean shots, not turning the ball over, being very efficient when they get the ball offensively. When they get a stop, more energy. Every time they get a stop, more energy. And then slowly but surely, they got to the lead. 97-94. You get down to 106-107. You put the ball in Anthony Edwards' hands. He hits the Michael Jordan shimmy, turn, shoot, off the backboard, fade away. This guy is nuts. Like 32 points, I think. Just absolutely had a night. Like, when I'm looking at the stats, I'm looking at the highlights. He had himself a night, and he slowly just grinded it out. Wasn't a big night from Cat. Wasn't a big night from Rudy Gobert. Like, everybody else just kind of played a role. Naz Reid did you some crucial points and minutes. But this is just a team now that, like, seriously, you could see them in a 7-game series with the Nuggets or the Kings or even the Warriors or the Suns in the Western Conference Finals, and they could go to the NBA championship. Like, this is a team that could go to the NBA championship against whoever in the East and grind it out and win in 6. Like, this is a team, or even win in 7. But this team here with Anthony Edwards and karl-anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert, Naz Reid, Jaden McDaniels, the key is going to be health. And we know that. It's going to be health. They have to stay healthy. They have to be okay with load management just a little bit. Not too much, but just a little bit, especially when you know you have a lead and you have the first place locked in. But Sam, 20 wins The most in franchise history in 25 games, Sam. Like when we first started the basketball party, by the way, people, every Wednesday on Locked On Sports Minnesota, we're going to talk all basketball. Basketball is my first love. I play 3 to 4 times a week. Just played yesterday. I had some Anthony Edwards moments yesterday too myself. Not going to lie.
Wow.
Like a little pop and pick at the top of the key, knock down threes. I'm the guy that when I get the ball, people are screaming shooter. Like, don't let him shoot. I'm 43. Got the gray beard, so a lot of young guys think I'm the old head, which I probably am in the gym. Like, it's some young. I mean, I played with a kid yesterday that played at Minnetonka High School like 2 years ago. I'm like, whoa, because he's home for Christmas. Another kid was on the court, played at Eden Prairie a year ago. So we're out there playing with some young kids. But the one thing they can't do, they're my height, they're not my strength. I still got old man daddy strength because I got kids. So when it comes to banging guys down in the post, when I take a slower, bigger guy, because they'll put like big, tall guys on me up top. Taking them up top, knocking down the three. But I had some Anthony Edwards moments yesterday, Sam. And so when you think about the basketball party, people, make sure you check that out. We love to talk basketball. I'm a basketball avid fan. But did you think the Timberwolves would be here when we started the show?
No. I mean, I think we predicted early on in the show, like, what's the record going to be through 20 games?
Yep.
And I think maybe the most optimistic guess was like 12-8, maybe like 14-6. Never dreamed this up. And they keep having, Ron, these really hard weeks where we say, okay, this is where they'll take a step back. I think I said they'd go 1-2 in the last 3 games. They go 3-0. They come back from 15 down on the road at Dallas. They win by a lot. Come back from 17 down on the road at Miami and win. And here's the most impressive part to me, Ron. Late in that game, I'm going to give you the result of every possession in the last 4 minutes of that game for the Wolves. They literally did not fail on offense in the last 4 minutes. Anthony Edwards, dunk. Next possession, Anthony Edwards, dunk. That was the fast break off the block. Next possession, Anthony Edwards, 13-foot pull-up jump shot. Next possession, Karl-Anthony Towns, 13-foot step-back jump shot. Next possession, Karl-Anthony Towns, offensive rebound, lob to Rudy Gobert for a dunk. Anthony Edwards, Michael Jordan, 13-foot 2-point jump shot. And then they made all their free throws after that. They scored every time down when they needed to because the Heat kept scoring as well. Back and forth, seesaw battle, and the Wolves didn't blink. They're so poised under pressure this year, which is a total reversal from what we saw a year ago.
Yeah, I mean, it is. And so, like, I'm looking at the stretch of games now. So you got the 76ers. You got the Lakers. And I'm not going to have you make a prediction. We'll do that tomorrow on the show probably. But you got the Lakers now. You got the 76ers. Because we'll have a party tomorrow. We'll talk about these games. There is a game tomorrow, but it's going to be after our show, so we can talk about that first one. Because our first stretch, again, I said 2-1. I also was watching the game last night a little bit, like checking in on it. And the skeptic in me was like, oh, if they lose, my prediction was dead on. They were 2-1. I sound like a genius. Yeah. But then I'm also like, put some more space between you and team number 2. Put some more space between you and the rest of the West. Like, because we're waiting for that other shoe to drop, but who knows when it's going to drop? Like, we don't know. Like, could this stretch be it when you got the Lakers, the 76ers, the Kings, the Thunder, the Mavs? Like, because they've already handled the Mavs. They beat them 119-101 on December 14th. So, I mean, is Kyrie going to be back for December 28th? Possibly. That's the game I was thinking about going to. Either that one or that Saturday game, December 30th, again at home versus the Lakers. Because there's 2 Lakers games. I was thinking about this Thursday going maybe, but my kids have softball, so I'm like, I don't know if I want to run right from softball straight to the T-Wolves game. But there's the Mavs could be a good one to go to see Luka. The Lakers, that second one, could be a good one. I'm trying to like keep an eye on the Lakers because people say if they play back-to-backs, LeBron and AD probably don't play. So keep an eye on the Lakers schedule. So I'm looking at that. But when you think about that stretch, you got the Knicks, and they go on the road to the Knicks for New Year's Day, which should be a fun one to wake up and watch. Like Sunday night, we'll have Vikings-Packers. Sunday night we'll have Vikings-Packers. I'll be up late doing the fan line with all you drunk fans. And then I'll wake up Monday morning, do nothing, relax, take the day off, and then little Timberwolves-Knicks on the road for New Year's Day. And plus some football, bowl game football, of course. But it's just, and then you got the Pelicans back at home January 3rd. So, like, this stretch, like, in my mind, the only tough games I see are the ones I said, which could be the Pelicans, but they already handled them. Could be the Kings. Could be the Thunder the way they're playing. Like, it doesn't feel like there's a lot of juggernaut games in here that scare me. I don't know. And maybe that's just because of how good the team's been playing. Like, you don't see any team. Like, you used to see the Suns or you see the Nuggets and you'd be like, oh my goodness. But here's a cool thing. Sam, they don't play the Nuggets again. Like, they don't have to deal with the Nuggets anymore, right? If I'm looking at this right? Or there's some games after January 27th. Because up to January 27th, there's no more Nuggets on the schedule.
Yeah, they don't play them for a long time. Where is the next? It must be March that they have the Nuggets. So March 19 and then March 29. So right at the end of the year, they're loaded up with the Nuggets a couple more times. Yep.
But like in this stretch through January, this month of January coming up, you got Celtics, Blazers, Pistons. Absolutely terrible team. That's a great game to load manage and rest, by the way. You got the Clippers. Another they got some ballers. You got to go against them. And they're coming here to Minnesota, which could be a good one to go to as well, January 14th. Because you got a lot of stars coming at. You got Harden, you got Kawhi and Paul George. I don't know if you ever see that many stars on the floor at the same time with Anthony Edwards, Karl-Anthony Towns, and Rudy Gobert. It's like an all-star game, feels like in that one. You got the Grizzlies coming to town, maybe Ja Morant. I think Ja Morant said he was 12 days left or something. He's back. So he'll be back by that game. That could be a good one in Minnesota to see Ja Morant back. You got Chet Holmgren coming back home again to Minnesota, January 20th. You got the Hornets, which don't seem scary, coming to Minnesota. And they got a nice stretch of home games in that January 18th, 20th, and 22nd. They don't have to get on the road. So that's it for their health. You got the Wizards, you got the Nets, and you got the Spurs. So, Sam, they could finish the month of January heading to February with literally like a 30 and 8. Like, could you imagine that at that point? 30.
It's not out of the question.
32 and 8. Halfway through the season, they'd be 32 and 8 with 40 games played. Like, that's what's crazy about this team. Like, you just don't know what you're going to get out of them when you think about this next stretch. So I hope that these games start to completely sell out. I hope that people start to appreciate this, because the Vikings aren't winning. The Wild aren't winning. The Gophers aren't winning. You have a winning team. If you were to look at the key player other than Anthony Edwards, who's your key player, quick, before we jump into the daily three, that has to remain healthy down the stretch, or at least for this month of January?
Rudy. I mean, last night, Rudy's defense in the second half, he was challenging every shot down low. He made Bam Adebayo look totally overmatched, which is pretty hard to do. He's just locked in. And he had an off night. Which game was it? Was it 2 games ago, maybe, where Rudy kind of was, he does have that once in a while where he's floating. He looks uncoordinated, but then he'll play like he did last night on defense. And you say, man, what an asset it is to have. He just keeps people outside of the paint completely. They're afraid to shoot in close. And I think he's the linchpin to all of it. So keep Rudy healthy. And then Cat and Ant seem to have a really good kind of chemistry right now. They kind of understand who's going to carry the offense. Last night it was Ant, and Cat made some great plays when he was called upon. It was wonderful to watch on both ends of the floor. Complimentary basketball.
Yeah, and Rudy Gobert right now, like we talked about this before, he was losing in the rebound battle last year, in the block battle to Walker Kessler. That is no longer an issue. He's almost got 13 rebounds a game, 2.5 blocks per game. The defensive rebounds for me is what's the biggest. 9 defensive rebounds per game, which means he's eliminating that second chance opportunity for the other team. But mine, I'm going to go a little off the beaten path. I think Naz Reid has to stay healthy. I think Naz Reid is a linchpin piece to bring him in, an additional hustle guy, an additional guard or defender, but when needed can give you key bonus points when the other guys are kind of like mid. If they're having mid type of games, he comes in and picks up the slack for where they're missing. And I think that's the key. Like, you have to have guys willing to put up. I mean, this team is scoring at a ridiculous clip. Anthony Edwards, of course, we know his health matters the most of everybody. I think karl-Anthony Towns, they can get away with a little bit of no karl-Anthony Towns for a little bit, maybe a little bit no Rudy Gobert for a little bit. But yeah, of the two, I would say Rudy Gobert and Ant are the most important right now. And then I'm going to go Naz Reid and Cat on that second tier. It's time to jump into the daily three. That's 3 questions. Take about 2 to 3 minutes each. We got a little bit of time today. But before we do that, make sure you guys know you can get SiriusXM on your phone. Just search the app market for SXM. You can search the XSM app, download it, and then when you're on the app, search Locked On Sports. You'll get all the Locked On content. And of course, for the Minnesota fans, search Locked On Sports Minnesota. You'll get all of our shows, all of our content, all the postcasts, anything that is uploaded to YouTube or our platform will be on the SXM app as well. SiriusXM, great way to travel with it. You can have it on your phone. You can have it in the gym. You can also have it in your car if you Bluetooth it, or if you just subscribe to SiriusXM, just give them a call. But this is the SXM app, and they can answer all your questions. Well, Sam, it's time for the Daily 3 now. Take it away.
All right. There was a mic'd up for the Bengals-Vikings game on Saturday. Jake Browning, former Vikings third-string quarterback. He was caught on the mic saying the Vikings shouldn't have ever bleeping cut him. Does Browning have a right to be upset at Minnesota, Ron?
He has a right to be upset at Minnesota, but not at like the coaching staff that's here now and the GM and the regime. It's a different group. Like he should be mad. If he's mad at Zimmer and Spielman, I get it. The Wilfs had nothing to do with him getting cut. But at the end, players don't see that. You don't see regime. You don't see like different groups. If you hate somebody, you hate them. And so it's what got him going. That put the battery in his back. That was what kept him going probably all game. That's what in his mind he was praying that he beat the Vikings because he was waiting for that moment to say they shouldn't effing cut him. Like he was waiting for that. He's been waiting for that moment his whole life, or at least the whole season. When he saw the Vikings circled on the thing and he saw Joe Burrow get hurt, he's like, oh man, Hollywood couldn't have wrote a better script for me. I get to play the former team that cut me and didn't believe in me. They believed in Kellen Mond over me. They should have never cut me. And look at me, I'm balling over Kellen Mond. He's true. He's right. But at the end of the day, just relax, buddy. Because like Joe Burrow, when he comes back, like you're not about to have a storied history type of thing where all of a sudden you're the Gardner Minshew of the league and everybody's trying to get you to be their starter for a year or something. Like, just relax. I mean, he did have a good game. I'll give him that. But yeah, that probably was just something to motivate him, get him going. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't think the Vikings made the wrong move to keep the rookie third-round pick over Jake Browning. I think they had to do that. I think they also kept Sean Mannion that year. I guess maybe he could be upset about that because neither of those guys have had great careers, Mannion or Mond. But I don't think Browning was spectacular in that preseason either. I think that it's not like he went out and balled, kind of like, remember Sloter? Remember how good Sloter looked in the preseason? And people actually had a real gripe that, why'd they cut this guy? Yep. Well, Browning didn't do that. So I think in retrospect, he sees those other guys where they're at in their career and says, I'm so much better than them. And he's right. So good for him, but also you're right. Calm down.
Yeah, relax. Like Aaron Rodgers would tell him, relax, buddy. All right, what you got next?
L-A-X. Week from today, Gophers in a bowl game against Bowling Green. Cole Kramer will be their quarterback with Ethan Kaliakmanis hitting the transfer portal. Do you like the Gophers' chances of winning with Kramer as their QB?
Yeah, I mean, they're playing Bowling Green. They're going to run the ball. Honestly, you just needed somebody serviceable enough to hand the ball off a bunch. He's going to make a couple throws here and there. We know he is good with his legs. I heard his press conference. It's kind of cool, too, because he's from Eden Prairie, Minnesota, played at Eden Prairie High School. He grew up a Gopher fan. So this has been a dream of his. He's like, yeah, if I was going to Arizona, I was going to like walk off into the sunset. Like I was done. I graduated. I'm not making it to the NFL. Nobody's bringing me into camp. I'm not going. Now, this is a funny thing. Maybe he goes out and throws for 400 yards and all of a sudden the Vikings want to bring him in for training camp. And then now we have a whole new type of story. We when they do the movie, Tom Cruise plays him or something, or Bradley Cooper or somebody plays Cole Kramer in the story of because you remember the Eagles had their story of Vinny, whatever, the dude that made the team that was played by Mark Wahlberg.
Invincible. I've seen that movie.
Yeah. Oh, see, there you go, Sam.
Amazing.
But maybe Cole Kramer creates a movie. They create a movie about him called like Cole Turned into Diamonds. And then, the pressure was on Cole and it turned into a diamond. And now he's set the world on fire in the bowl game. The Quick Lane Bowl is in Detroit. Maybe the Lions see him play in their stadium. And they're like, man, this kid would be a great backup to Jared Goff next year. And they want to bring him into camp. Who knows? But no, he's moving to Arizona. He has a house there already. He was ready to be done. He's been in college for a long time. So that's what people forget. He's already got, like, I think, a wife or a fiance. So people forget these guys have been in school so long. I think Cole Kramer was coming in around the time like what's his name? Cole, like him and Coughlin were teammates, and Blake Cashman, and,
Yep.
and these dudes have been in the league for 2-3 years, 4 years almost probably. And so now, this guy Cole Kramer, younger than them, but now, he has his shots. So I think it is what it is. Like it's a good job for him. He gets a chance to come back. The rumor was he made $30,000. That's not the number. It's not $30,000. But it is probably, 3,000, maybe 5,000, which is of it though. Like, I mean, they need a quarterback. So he has them by the throat. They need a quarterback. And he's like, look, man, all right, man, look, we'll take care of you. We'll get you like 10 grand from NIL. Fine. It's one game. They're going to make, I mean, this thing about the bowl game, they're going to make, I think, $1 million, if not more, from this bowl game. So it is a value for Cole to go and be a part of history for one last time. If they win the bowl game now, his infamy will live on and go for history. He'll be able to tell his kids, I won the Quick Lane Bowl my senior year. I was walking away from football. Like, he'll have a great story to tell his kids and grandkids now. Like, because people always tell stories about their bowl games now and the games they played in. He'll be able to say, I was a starting quarterback in my last game of my senior year as a Gopher, and I grew up in Eden Prairie, Minnesota. I think it's a great story, great way to ride him to the sunset. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, this is a good way for him to, now his final pass of his college career doesn't have to be the one against North Carolina where he just chucked it up to nobody. Yep. Now he gets to rewrite the final chapter.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. That's a good one. Yeah, because he did come in the game, and he should have probably just dumped it off or threw it out of bounds, and he YOLO'd the bit and just said, hey, he like Jameis Winston, if I'm going to get in, and I'm going to make you guys remember me. No, buddy, we don't want to remember you that way. What's the last one?
Yep, last one. We got a couple minutes left. I'm going to read you the FanDuel lines for the MVP in the NFL. The leader is Brock Purdy at -200. Then it's Lamar plus 500. Josh Allen plus 800. Josh Allen, really? Dak Prescott plus 800. Christian McCaffrey plus 1,600. So on and so forth from there. So of those 5 favorites, who do you think is going to win the MVP?
Oh, man. I don't know. I really don't. I do think it's because you got the AFC leader, you got the NFC leader. I feel like it has to be whoever, like, because they do it after the playoffs too, right? Or is it after the season?
No, it's a regular season award. Yeah.
But do they announce it like during the playoffs, or is it before the playoffs start? I always forget how because the voting happens, even though it's supposed to be for just the regular season. I feel like the voting happens during the playoffs.
Yeah, I guess I don't know the particulars of the voting. I think they announce it after the playoffs, but I thought it was a regular season vote.
It is a regular season, but I just remember people always saying they feel like people like take into account sometimes like, oh, this dude had a great playoff run and that's why everybody's on him now. Blah, blah. But yeah, no, I feel like it's got to be Brock or Lamar Jackson right now. Like, and Lamar, I think, becomes a dark horse, right? Like the AFC for us, because of course we're in the NFC, so we don't pay attention to them as much. It feels like Lamar Jackson on the Ravens, even though they're the AFC leader, they don't get as much coverage as Brock Purdy and the 49ers do. Like, it just feels like people love Brock Purdy and the 49ers. So I feel like Lamar Jackson, just from a media standpoint, and the people that like hate Cam Newton might just want to vote for Brock Purdy to give a game manager in Cam Newton's mind the MVP. So I do feel like maybe Brock Purdy, just from a media standpoint, everybody's loving him. But do you give it to the weapons? Like, are people saying like Christian McCaffrey or Deebo Samuel or Shanahan should be the coach of the year? Whereas Lamar Jackson, I mean, Odell Beckham and Rashad Bateman and those, like, Zay Flowers, like, people aren't considering his running back weapons and his receiving weapons as true weapons. Mark Andrews, I think, got hurt, right? Isn't he out?
Yep.
So I would kind of lean towards Lamar Jackson because he has less to work with. Brock Purdy has a ton of weapons, but I don't know. What are your thoughts before we get out of here?
I think you can't underestimate the rushing ability of Lamar Jackson. That's a big factor. Right. His passing stats are not as impressive. Brock Purdy's got better passing stats, but Lamar has that mobility. You know, he showed it against Jacksonville on Sunday night. His escapability is so valuable that I like Lamar a little bit more, but Purdy right now is kind of an overwhelming favorite, -200. So he might be the guy in the end.
Well, Yeah, maybe he will. We'll see. It's going to come down to it. We know it's not going to be Kirk Cousins because he was headed towards MVP status early in the season, and now that's gone away. But I'm Ron Johnson. That's Sam Ekstrom. This has been a Ron Johnson show on a beautiful, beautiful Tuesday in Minnesota, headed towards 50 degrees for Christmas, people. So enjoy your Christmas holiday. Next time we'll talk to you. You guys have opened your gifts, and hopefully the Vikings are 8-7 after beating the Lions. Have a good one, but make sure you guys know Locked On Sports Minnesota can be found 24/7 on our YouTube live stream, where you can get all of your favorite Minnesota sports shows around the clock. It's Vikings, Wild, Wolves, Twins, and Gophers all hours of the day. Have a great one.